This episode of Get Outta Here, the AP Travel Podcast, is sponsored by Carnival Corporation, the world's largest cruise company with 10 of the world's leading brands, including Carnival Cruise Line, Cunard, Holland America Line, Princess Cruises, and Seabourn. To learn about the world's leading cruise lines from Carnival Corporation and great vacation options, contact your travel professional or visit worldsleadingcruiselines.com.
It's Get Outta Here. I'm Warren Levinson. Scorpions. If you're afraid of them, and who isn't at least a little bit, you may want to approach this episode with caution and maybe a pair of salad tongs. The fierce arachnids have been roaming the Earth for 450 million years with few apparent evolutionary changes. Their stings can hurt, and in very rare cases can kill. Their reputation as fighters that don't back down has won them fear and respect among humans, and more than a little fascination. Count Associated Press writer and editor Peter Prengaman among the fascinated. Regular listeners may remember Peter's report to the podcast in 2017, episode 33, if you're keeping score, on his visit with the family to nature preserves in the Amazon. Peter's posted to Phoenix now, and when he heard about a scorpion hunt in an Arizona state park, well, he just couldn't resist. He's on the line with us now to tell us why. Peter Prengaman, scorpions. Tell me, give me a little bit of the history of you and scorpions, because I get a sense in your reporting that this is not something that is an interest that is just sort of popped up. That is something that you've had an interest in for a while.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to say why, but I've always just seen scorpions and thought of them as these really interesting creatures. You know, they have pinchers. They look sort of like a lobster, but their tail goes up the other way. And, of course, they're dangerous, and they bite. So that's something that just kind of wows you about them. Also, you know, you look at the horoscope, and one of the signs is the Scorpio. And that also kind of jumps out at me. And, you know, you kind of put all this together, and you just think, boy, these are really interesting creatures that I know freak people out. They certainly freak me out. The last thing I want to do is, you know, pick one up with my bare hands. And, you know, moving to the Southwest, I of course worry about finding them in the house or that they'll bite one of my kids. But all of that aside, they're pretty interesting looking little creatures.
So you moved the family to Arizona after 5 years working for the AP in South America, and you come across this scorpion hunt, scorpion visit. What exactly was this you took the kids on?
Yeah, so a colleague of mine, Anita Snow out here, told me one day, hey, I saw this thing about a scorpion hunt. What do you think? You know, would your boys be interested in this? And I thought, wow, that would be really cool. You know, when we lived in Brazil, we went to the Amazon and we saw all kinds of species, and, you know, went into the Amazon itself and saw different kinds of fish and piranhas and stuff like that. And my kids really liked it. So I thought, they'll really want to do this. I was surprised when I brought it home to the family, though, and over dinner said, hey, we could do this. I thought there would be sort of an outpouring of, wow, that's so cool. But learned pretty quickly that wasn't the case. My wife said, no way, absolutely not, I'm not going. And you're not taking our 3-year-old. And our 9-year-old said, I don't want to go to that. Gross. The only one who wanted to go was our 8-year-old, who said, yeah, that's cool. And eventually I convinced the 9-year-old to go as well. And he enjoyed it. But I do think he thought the whole thing was weird.
It sounds, you know, I have to say, here from wet and temperate New York and to New Jersey, it does sound just a little weird.
It's a little weird. It is definitely a little weird when you think, okay, I'm going to go out into the desert, which is a pretty harsh place anyway, at night, and, you know, look around for these things that potentially, it's rare, but potentially can be fatal.
And now they also... This is the thing that's possibly the most interesting part of it. They fluoresce if you shine a black light on them?
Yes. At night, they fluoresce for reasons that scientists don't fully understand. But when they come under ultraviolet lights, they turn neon green, literally neon, like you'd see in a neon sign of like a bad dive bar or something. That's the color They're very bright. And that's itself really cool because you're in an area where everything is black, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these little neon things moving around on the ground. So basically, a lot of times these little suckers are running around and you don't even necessarily know it. Say that you're hiking somewhere, you wouldn't know it unless you had a black light to see them.
Well, I have to say, once you shine the black light on them and they show up sort of neon green, they don't sound that threatening anymore. Or they don't seem that threatening anymore. What is it like to come more or less face-to-face or face-to-pinchers with them?
I think the sensation is just kind of awe. You stand there and you look at them, and the closer you get, the more chance that something will happen, as they sense you coming, and they'll scurry away, go into a hole, and then a lot of times as well, turn around to face you and, raise their tail. So it's an odd sensation, but a pretty cool one.
And how dangerous are they?
So in the United States, deaths are rare, very, very rare. Less than a couple every year, and we're talking about thousands of scorpion bites. Where they're more dangerous is in Mexico, in parts of the Middle East, parts of South America. And the research that I've been able to do on this is that the reason for that, better said, is that they just don't have the anti-venom in a lot of places that they do here. So, here if you get bit, you may not know what it is, but if you start having symptoms, you can get taken to a hospital. They probably have some kind of anti-venom, figure out where you were, and even if they don't know the animal, think, well, maybe it was a scorpion, we're going to give you this anti-venom. That slows things down. You're better off. But if you're in a rural area of Mexico, for example, you don't have that, and getting bit can be lethal.
So the scorpion's first choice is not to bite you, right?
No, the scorpion's first choice is to get away. Absolutely. The park ranger told us that they would try to do that their first thing would be to get away because, I don't know how bright necessarily scorpions are, but they know as apex predators that they're not at the top of the food chain outside of their area. And so if they see anything bigger come at them, they'll try to get away. But as you see when you go and you corner them or you start to lift them up, they're also very prepared to fight if and when it looks like they can't get away.
So the scorpion hunt you were involved in, tell me how does this work? How many people were involved? Where did it happen? And what were you out to do?
So about 40 people gathered in a park about an hour east of Phoenix, a park called Lost Dutchman, and met right at dusk, as the sun was going down. We had a short intro from the park ranger who said, everybody going out needs closed-toe shoes. Don't worry about being bit. That probably won't happen because you're going to use tongs. These are like salad tongs to pick them up. And then we'll put them in these plastic containers that she handed out. And we'll do this for like an hour. And, she took us out, led us to different areas, some on little paths, some off the paths. And within about 10 minutes of the walk, we started seeing all kinds of scorpions. It was a bit of a weird sensation because most people, and myself and my kids included, were carrying two lights. In one hand, a regular flashlight or your cell phone to light the path of where you were going. There was moonlight, but there was nothing else. And then in the other hand, a black light or an ultraviolet light to look for the scorpions. So as soon as you would see the scorpion, or the one that you wanted to look at, then you'd turn off your regular flashlight or your cell phone because you wanted to fully look at the scorpion. And then each time you have to figure out like how close you want to get, or Are there, several bushes? Because this is not a flat or even surface. In fact, I would say probably the biggest risk to you would be breaking your ankle on something like this.
I would think tripping would be actually a bigger hazard than anything a scorpion could do to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tripping, and lots of cactuses are out. There are also, the ranger told us, there are also snakes. And again, the snakes will try to get away, but you could have some bad luck and step on one or something and get bit. Most likely, you're not going to get bit by scorpions in this kind of setting unless you do something, really foolish. But luckily, there were no foolish people in our group, so nobody got bit.
And among the 40 or so who were with you, were there a lot of repeat visitors? Is this something that people do on a kind of regular basis, or is this a kind of one thing? Yeah, I did that. I checked that off my list now.
The sense I got was it was the latter. It was I did that. I checked this off my list. We met tourists from all over the U.S. who were just happening to be visiting. I also met some local people from the Phoenix area who told me that they wanted to check this out because growing up, they had always seen scorpions as a pest. And when they saw this particular ad, they thought, well, that's interesting. I've grown up always seeing them as something we got to get rid of. Let's go and let's find out a little bit more. And in fact, these three people, it was interesting. They had T-shirts made up with neon scorpions on the front. So they were, totally gung-ho to come out and do this.
Okay, they're pests, but we admire them anyway. I mean, how much do scorpions figure in pest control advertising in Arizona?
A lot. It's incredible. It's you just go to Google and you put in, scorpions pest control, and literally like an endless amount of ads will come up. And these ads they should be in an advertising book or something, or in a class, because they obviously really try to take advantage of people's preconceived fears. This one ad said, you don't want to wake up with scorpions in your bed. Well, of course you don't want to wake up with scorpions in your bed, but when you learn a little bit about scorpions, you realize that would probably almost never happen. More likely that, you're cleaning out something in a garage, or you put your hand, somewhere that's kind of a dark place where a scorpion happened to be sort of living, maybe something like that, but in your bed. And then there were also some rich ads of all of these kids, these nice little kids, hair blowing in the wind and smiling. And the implication is, the message is be careful because you don't want, your loved one to get bit by a scorpion.
Yes, the old mafia setup. Nice kids, be a shame if anything happened to them.
Right, exactly.
I get it. All right.
Yeah, don't let this happen to your kid.
You're listening to Get Outta Here, the AP Travel Podcast. I'm Warren Levinson. We're talking scorpions with Peter Prengaman of our Phoenix Bureau. More after a break.
Download the AP News app for the latest in news, sports, travel, entertainment, and more. Available now for iPhone and iPad.
It's Get Outta Here, the AP Travel Podcast, talking with Peter Prengaman on scorpions. So, okay, let's say I want to go and hunt scorpions. What do I need to know, and where do I need to go?
The best thing to do would be to do searches of the states where you're going to be. From what I can gather, these really happen in Southwest states, in Arizona, New Mexico, places like that. So if for example, okay, I'm going to be in New Mexico in the week of whatever in September, do some Google searches and just put in scorpion hunts and see what comes up. Most, from what I can gather, happen at state parks. They happen with rangers, people who have expertise and interest in scorpions. And they're free for the most part. For this one, we only had to pay $7 to get into the park. Of course, you need a black light, an ultraviolet light, and if you have some solid tongs, that's great because then you don't have to buy them. But they're relatively cheap and really a unique thing to do.
How long was the hunt? How much time did you spend out there?
We spent about an hour and a half between the talk at the beginning, going out, and then coming back. What was really cool when we came back is that everybody who had gotten a scorpion put them in this large plastic container, about the size of like a home aquarium, and then you could just watch them. And that in itself was fascinating because they really are courageous little guys. I mean, one after the other would try to get out and just plow into the side of the case, get knocked over, roll over, keep going. And then they fought a lot with each other. And that was interesting. At one point, several kids, including one of my sons, got some moths and put them in for them to eat. And they started to do that. But then all of a sudden, one of the larger scorpions just inhaled a small scorpion. And everybody was like, whoa, what happened here? They were eating moths. And all of a sudden, one just inhales one of the other ones. And the ranger said, well, yeah, they don't just fight each other. They eat each other. They see each other as prey. And so that was really interesting.
They usually eat moths. Yeah. But if they're in a tank full with little scorpions, then they eat the scorpions. Oh, a fight. Come on, eat the scorpion. Oh.
It is.
What is he doing?
There's a little one in the middle.
Feels like he's digging down.
Yeah, they like to dig.
Cool. Why?
Because then they can tunnel out. That's where they can hide.
I think all this stuff just go to scorpions and in a way like kind of the role that they have in social culture. If you think about it, I mean, what are scorpions? When you think of scorpions, what do you think of? You think of these little critters that battle. You think of dangerous. You think of like fast. You think of bad, for better or for worse.
Right.
But it conjures lots of different thoughts, and I think that's a combination of their shape, the way that they attack, and the fact that they've been around literally for millions and millions of years and have not evolved much. They pretty much do what they did 400 million years ago. They do the same thing today.
Right. And of course you find out that they really are fighters. They really battle one another. So it's not like we have this misconception that, some species or some strains of scorpion they're really just pussycats. No, they all kind of fight.
No, they do. Yeah, no, they do. They do not back down. And that's fun to see, especially like little ones, because we saw a range in size from like a small grasshopper to, we'll say like a fat human finger, at that length and that width. And even the little ones, when they're backed up into a corner or something, I mean, they will turn around and face you and raise their tail. And there's a certain beauty in that. I don't know.
No, there is.
There is it's just something that's like, knows it's probably going to get crushed or die, but it's just going to go out like trying to make your life hell. That I don't know. I'm attracted to that.
What happens to the scorpions after they're captured, after they're put in the plastic boxes, and after you watch them, and then everybody's done watching them? Are they just released back into the desert, or what happens?
They're released. Yeah, they're released back into the desert, just so that they're a really important part of the desert ecosystem.
What role do they play in the desert ecosystem?
Well, they eat lots of insects is one thing that they do. They keep areas somewhat clean because they're moving through them. They tunnel holes. And researchers that I talked to, just because I was really interested after this hunt, told me that if there are particular problems in an area, the first place to look is really scorpions, especially if it's a desert. If things seem to be dying off, if colors of the land are changing, a really good place to look first are scorpions, because there's so many of them. There's so many different species, and they're so vibrant and part of the desert landscape. So by looking at their populations and seeing, have they shrunk, or which kind of scorpions are where, you can make conclusions about what is happening in a particular ecosystem.
So we should probably change the expression. We're not actually taking canaries down into coal mines anymore. So maybe scorpions in the desert could be a linguistic way or a language way of pointing to an indicator for the larger ecosystem.
Absolutely. It definitely could. And I think, the more that we learn about scorpions, the more people will come to appreciate them, come to appreciate some of their aspects. Like like that they glow at night, and that's something scientists really don't know the answer as to why they glow. I mean, they physically know what in their body makes them glow, but why they do that is unclear. Whether they're, repelling would-be predators by scaring them off, whether they're attracting would-be prey, it's not clear.
Or just showing off, which would be a human thing, but I believe that would be kind of personalizing another species.
Or just showing off and, wowing people like me out in the desert looking at them in the middle of the night.
Is there a season for scorpion hunts?
They happen all year, but with more of them happening in the summer months, which, of course, is, the least comfortable to visit places like the Southwest, where it can get to 110, 115 degrees during the day, and then at night it cools off to a breezy 103. But they're more active during the summer, and so they do more scorpion hunts during the summer, though you can find them the rest of the year as well.
And finally, here's a question that I never imagined I would ask as part of the travel podcast, but I must. Peter Prengaman, what's your sign?
I'm a Cancer. Of all.
I thought surely it would be a Scorpio.
No, but, thinking of friends that I know of Scorpios, and maybe it's projecting a little bit onto them, but they sort of fit those characteristics, that I have in the back of my mind. They have sharp tongues, they go for what they want. They don't back down. At least in my small world, the Scorpios I know are just like the scorpions that I saw in the desert.
Peter Prengaman works in the AP's Phoenix Bureau. He's back after 5 years covering us in Brazil and Argentina, and he went looking for scorpions. Thanks a lot for talking with us.
Thanks so much. It was fun.
Peter Prengaman is the AP's news director for the West. He's based in Phoenix. And now, my favorite trip. Bishop Briggs, the London-born singer-songwriter, she was born Sarah McLachlan, so she needed a stage name and got it from Bishop Briggs, the Scottish town her parents came from. Bishop Briggs spent her formative years in Hong Kong. She sat down with our Alicia Rancilio recently to talk about music, of course, and her favorite Hong Kong neighborhood.
Lang Kwai Fong is very, very fun. It's just basically this open street land with bars and people and clubs, and I just feel like you meet so many people just by walking down the street, which is really, really fun. And I'm such a lone wolf and someone that is in bed by 9 p.m. But when you are in that environment, you're like, let's stay out for another hour, just because you don't really know what you're going to experience or see. So whenever anyone tells me that they went to Hong Kong, I ask if they went to Lang Kwai Fong, because I can get a vibe from them, what they got up to. So I would recommend Lang Kwai Fong. But be careful. Don't drink too much. Don't do drugs ever, obviously. But if anything goes wrong, I never told you to go to Lang Kwai Fong. I told you to be careful. Drink water. But Hong Kong is so beautiful. There is incredible hiking. By the way, there's this hike called Dragon's Back. So there is so much to see.
Bishop Briggs is touring North America this fall with October dates in Montreal, Toronto, New York, Atlanta, Austin, and New Orleans, among others. And that's the show. Get Outta Here is a production of the Associated Press, produced under the supervision of Nikessa Moody and Peter Costanzo. I'm Warren Levinson. We'll see you next time.
This episode of Get Outta Here, the AP Travel Podcast, was sponsored by Carnival Corporation, the world's largest cruise company with 10 of the world's leading brands, including Carnival Cruise Line, Cunard, Holland America Line, Princess Cruises, and Seabourn. To learn about the world's leading cruise lines from Carnival Corporation and great vacation options, contact your travel professional or visit worldsleadingcruiselines.com.